This is the explainer for the series called Debris 2021. Sit back and enjoy watching. Notice a corpse floating 8,000 millimeters in midair unaffected by gravity. The rich woman present was caught by Finola Jones in an instant of shock. By observing, they noticed that something seemed to be interfering with the surrounding magnetic field, and Brian Beneventi pulls the wire from the body. Unexpectedly, the corpse was not affected by the wind direction and slowly drifted in the opposite direction. The confused Brian is even more puzzled. They had to follow. Soon the corpse crossed the green grassland, to a clearing surrounded by straw. They were stunned by what they saw, and there was a tornado of grass in the clearing. 3 of the bodies were also floating. The doubtful agents were confused after investigating the anomaly. The only thing that's certain is that Newton's laws won't explain this. It was the nearby motel that also experienced this phenomenon. An 8.8-ton piece of iron fell to the ground. It was suspended in midair. The hotel maid curiously reached out to pick it up. Unexpectedly, she moved directly from the 18th floor to the first floor in an instant. It's faster than going to hell. Everyone who came to the scene was stunned in an instant, and they looked up at the ceiling, and nothing had changed. At this time, Brian just arrived at the scene. They brought them all back to the lab for study, but no one noticed that one of the women lying flat opened her eyes. She looked around. She closed her eyes and continued to lie down while no one noticed. And on the other side, something strange happened on the lawn. Marcia picked up a stone. The dry stone floated toward the square fog. The strange thing is that the stone did not fall to the ground after touching the barrier, but the stone disappeared. Marcia got a little confused. She walked forward cautiously. Just as she was thinking about what was inside, suddenly a black palm snapped onto the screen. The frightened Marcia retreated and fell to the ground. She watched in horror as the figures kept appearing behind the screen. Soon, Brian arrived at the scene to check the situation. But looking at the picture on the screen, they were also confused. Obviously, this is not a paranormal phenomenon, because there was an unknown sound coming from the screen. They couldn't figure out the truth of the strange event and decided to wait here for the square object to appear. If there is no accident, there will be an accident soon. Everything on the side sent a signal. Vanola's eyes were numb with shock. She hastily looked for Brian to compare the situation. Sure enough, they found a clue. That's where the sound was coming from. However, just then, the square object that had been waiting for so long reappears. More figures vaguely appeared in front of it. Finola hurriedly informed her teammates to arrive at the scene. Excited, she tried to greet the people in the square object through special earphones. Unexpectedly, a figure stepped forward to respond to her. Finola was instantly surprised. She quickly asked for the identity of the figure. But the weird thing is that the figure didn't know how it got in, and it couldn't see the people around it. At this time, Brian approached the square and examined it closely. It turned out it was just a translucent wall a few nanometers thick. There was nothing behind it. Apparently, these people belonged to a mysterious parallel space. However, just when Finola was about to continue inquiring about the situation, suddenly the fog began to flash. Then it disappeared without a trace. However, just as they were about to investigate, more terrifying news arrived. A fog door was reported where a bus pulling into the screen also disappeared. Just seconds earlier, all the passengers in the bus reported hearing strange sounds at the same time, and they realized something was wrong. But they didn't expect it to happen so soon. Due to traveling at the speed of light, the bus didn't stop directly but coasted for hundreds of meters. As a result, hundreds of passengers in the bus were thrown into chaos. Only one man managed to escape. The group of people examining the water reflection had no confirmation of his condition. Brian arrived at the scene and confirmed it matched the description of the square object from the lawn incident. This meant that there must be debris nearby. According to the clues currently available, Brian and Finola hurried to find the girl's father. After some inquiries, they finally found the location where the girl disappeared. It happened to be the same square object that had appeared on the lawn. While they were talking, the square object appeared again. However, this time the figure in the parallel space could communicate with the outside world. The father rushed forward in a hurry, but he was stopped as it's dangerous. The missing girl appeared, visibly surprised and emotional. She loudly called out that she missed her father. Seeing this, Brian quickly interrupted and urged them to ask the girl what happened. But unexpectedly, the girl didn't know how she got in. She said she had only been gone for a few hours. Brian was instantly shocked upon hearing this. She had actually been missing for half a year. Could time be slower in this parallel space than in reality? Just as they were processing this revelation, suddenly the square object began flashing again. It disappeared after a few seconds. Brian was determined to search for more debris. He decided to take a calculated risk. The team quickly retrieved the massive debris and brought it onto the lawn. To their astonishment, the square object reappeared, as the debris emitted a steady glow. Figures within the fog began to materialize. Then Brian connected the debris to the barrier. Finally, the missing girl was rescued. Simultaneously, everyone trapped in the parallel space began returning to the real world. However, in another city, a similar event began to unfold again. A man looked up. He noticed everyone around him was frozen in time. The next second, his hands began moving uncontrollably. Trembling, he picked up a backpack from the ground and handed it to the woman in front of him. But the woman remained expressionless. She took the backpack and walked away. Then, the man pulled a small black object from his pocket and aimed it at his own head. In the end, the woman appeared to lose her memory. The mysterious backpack's purpose remained unknown. Surveillance footage revealed that everyone was being controlled by some unseen force. The man was identified as George Jones. Brian and Finola decided to investigate George's home first. At George's house, they found his brother, Matt, and his daughter. Matt told Brian and Finola. A few days earlier, mysterious alien debris had started appearing in their backyard pond. Matt admitted that George had collected the debris and planned to sell it. Unexpectedly, George had later taken his own life at the dock. After gathering the key details, Brian and Finola drove to George's backyard pond to investigate. Suddenly, Finola experienced breathing difficulties. Her heart rate spiked. She felt an overwhelming sensation warning her to stay away. Alarmed, they quickly retreated to the car. Finola suspected something sinister was connected to George's family. She theorized that the debris might be affecting people's minds. Finola decided to speak with George's daughter, Isla. Isla glanced at her in fear. She observed nervously as the team began searching the pond. Suddenly, she seemed to understand something. She urged Finola to leave immediately, saying the area was dangerous. Finola was taken aback. She couldn't understand why Isla was so adamant. Under Brian's questioning, Matt finally revealed his true motives. He admitted he wanted to hoard the debris for himself. He confessed to using the debris to manipulate George into leaving. What happened next was even more unsettling. Matt suddenly commanded Brian to leave. To everyone's shock, Brian seemed to obey without resistance. At the same moment, Finola and her team were forced to halt their investigation. Everyone quickly fled the area in their vehicles. While Matt was in the warehouse, he obsessively toyed with the alien debris retrieved from the pond. He seemed to fall into a state of ecstasy. The debris appeared to be completely controlling his mind. At this point, Brian and Finola had already made it to the airport. Suddenly, midway through their walk, Finola snapped out of a strange trance. She questioned, "Why are we at the airport?" Brian quickly regained clarity after hearing her question. At that moment, a plane controlled by Matt skidded across the runway and crashed violently into the ground. Finola confronted Matt, demanding he hand over the debris immediately. She warned him that the situation would escalate if he didn't comply. Matt barely responded, just muttering under his breath. Suddenly, Matt used the debris to mentally force Finola to lower her gun. The others began turning on each other under the debris' influence. Matt manipulated Brian to point his gun at his own head, forcing him to pull the trigger. The debris' powers grew stronger and more uncontrollable. Brian was on the verge of pulling the trigger against his will. Finola was frozen in place, unable to act. She could only watch in horror as Brian struggled to resist. Just as the situation reached its breaking point, Matt was suddenly struck down by a force emanating from the debris, collapsing lifelessly to the floor. It was Isla, Matt's niece, who had used her own latent connection with the debris to intervene. Isla, too, had the ability to control the debris. She didn't want Matt to harm anyone else. With a mix of sorrow and determination, she ended her uncle's life. Brian and Finola finally escaped the deadly confrontation. It was revealed that the bizarre phenomena were caused by the alien debris scattered across the Earth. Humanity faced an unprecedented challenge from the debris. Fear and confusion gripped everyone exposed to its influence. Yet the source of the chaos needed to be confronted. Brian and Finola vowed to uncover the key to controlling or neutralizing the debris. Together, they resolved this crisis, but knew the journey was far from over. That's the end of the story. Thank you for watching.